Dramatic video purportedly shows the moment an ICE agent fatally opened fire on a woman in Minneapolis, who DHS says attempted to barrel her SUV into the path of an officer. As multiple angles of the incident have emerged and gone viral across the internet, users are left divided on whether or not the agent's actions were reckless or in self-defense.
On a quiet Wednesday morning in Minneapolis, a woman left her home thinking she was doing something ordinary. She had just helped drop a child off at school. She was moving through a residential neighborhood, one that looked like thousands of others across America. Within minutes, she would be dead. Her name was Renee Nicole Good. She was 37 years old, a mother of 3, a woman whose life story, until that moment, had never crossed national headlines. And yet, by the end of that morning, her name would be broadcast across the country, wrapped in controversy, political statements, viral video clips, and official press releases that tried to define who she was in the final seconds of her life. But before the labels, before the footage, before the arguments, who was Renee Nicole Good? And how did a stay-at-home mother end up at the center of a deadly encounter with an ICE agent? Renee Nicole Good was born in Colorado Springs. Her full name was Renee Nicole Good, a name that followed her through a life shaped less by politics and more by family, faith, and responsibility. Those who knew her described her as deeply religious, a devout Christian who took part in youth mission work when she was young. As a child, she traveled to Northern Ireland on faith-based missions, experiences that, according to relatives, shaped her sense of empathy and care for others. This wasn't a woman known for activism, not someone associated with protests or public political movements, not a figure who sought attention. Renee's life was private, centered around raising children and navigating personal loss. She was a mother of 3. From her first marriage, she had a daughter who was 15 and a son who was 12. Later, she had a 6-year-old son with her second husband. Her role, according to her former spouse, was that of a stay-at-home mother, someone whose days revolved around school schedules, childcare, and family routines. She wasn't an activist, her ex-husband said. She wasn't someone who went to protests. He emphasized that he never saw Renee as politically involved in any organized way. And yet, in official statements released after her death, she would be described very differently. Renee's life had already been marked by hardship long before that morning in Minneapolis. In 2023, her second husband died. He had been struggling with PTSD, and his death left Renee not only grieving but responsible for raising her children while navigating emotional and financial uncertainty. After his passing, she moved to Valley Falls, Kansas, where she lived with her parents. It was a period of regrouping, leaning on family support, trying to create stability for her kids. Later, she relocated again, this time to Kansas City, Missouri. Then, last year, Renee made another move, this time to Minnesota. On social media, she posted about experiencing Minneapolis, suggesting a fresh start, a new chapter. One image on her Instagram included a pride flag emoji, a small detail that would later be scrutinized by people searching for political meaning in her life. But those closest to her said the move wasn't about activism or ideology. It was about survival, about rebuilding. The morning Renee was killed began like any other. According to her former husband, Renee and her current partner had just dropped off her 6-year-old son at school. Then, on their way through a residential neighborhood in Minneapolis, they encountered federal immigration agents conducting an operation. What happened next unfolded rapidly and was captured, in part, on video. The footage that later circulated online shows Renee inside her Honda Pilot. Agents are nearby. Voices are raised. Confusion is evident. At some point, authorities say Renee attempted to flee in her vehicle. According to official statements, her car was allegedly used as a weapon after federal agents were blocked in by vehicles during the operation. In the video, panic is audible. No. Oh my God. What the? Moments later, gunfire. Renee was shot in the head. Her vehicle continued forward before crashing into a parked car further down the road. She died there on a residential street. Video recorded after the shooting captured a heartbreaking scene. Renee's partner can be seen in visible distress, crying uncontrollably, struggling to process what had just happened. Someone asks him, "Were you riding with her?" "That's my wife," he responds. He appears overwhelmed, disoriented, explaining that they were new to the area, that he didn't know who to call. In the chaos that followed, Renee Nicole Good was no longer a mother, no longer a person with a life story. She had become a headline. Within hours, official narratives began to form. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement describing the incident as an act of domestic terrorism. According to DHS officials, ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting what they described as targeted operations when rioters began blocking officers. One individual, they said, weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over law enforcement officers in an effort to kill them. An ICE agent, the statement said, fired defensive shots while fearing for his life and the lives of others. The language was firm, absolute, final. Renee Good, the stay-at-home mother described by her family, was now officially labeled a domestic terrorist. That label immediately drew backlash. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey publicly condemned ICE's presence in the city following the shooting. "ICE, get thee out of Minneapolis," he said in a fiery statement. "We do not want you here." He argued that the agency's actions had made the city less safe, not more. "This is the opposite of public safety," Frey said, criticizing what he viewed as aggressive federal enforcement tactics in residential neighborhoods. The divide was clear. On one side, federal authorities insisting the shooting was justified, a matter of self-defense. On the other, city officials and community members questioning why an operation like this unfolded where families live. And at the center of it all, Renee's body lay lifeless. For Renee's family, the political debate felt distant compared to the personal loss. She was killed on her older sister's birthday. Her uncle, Robert Ginger, spoke to ABC Denver 7, sharing how Renee's parents described her, not as a threat, not as an extremist, but as a caring human being caught in what he called a stupid circumstance. "She was one of the kindest people I've ever known," he said. Renee's mother, Donna Ganger, echoed that sentiment in an interview with the Star Tribune. "She was extremely passionate," Ganger said. "She's taken care of people all her life." She described her daughter as loving, forgiving, affectionate, someone who gave more than she took. "She was an amazing human being," her mother said. Ganger added that Renee was probably terrified in her final moments. "The circumstances of her death," she said, "were so stupid." That word, stupid, has lingered in many conversations about the case. Not because the moment wasn't serious, but because it raises the haunting question. How did something so ordinary turn so deadly? Renee wasn't fleeing a crime scene. She wasn't armed. She wasn't known for violence. Yet fear, confusion, authority, and split-second decisions collided in a way that left 3 children without their mother. The video clips tell only fragments of the story. They show fear. They show chaos. They show a moment when control vanished. What they don't show is the life that came before. They don't show Renee waking up early to get her kids ready. They don't show the grief she carried after losing her husband. They don't show her trying to rebuild, to start over in a new city. And they don't show what was going through her mind in those final seconds. Was she scared? Confused? Trying to escape what she perceived as danger? Those answers may never be fully known. What is clear is that Renee Nicole Good became a symbol overnight. To some, she represents a dangerous escalation during federal enforcement operations. To others, she represents a tragic failure of restraint and judgment. But to her family, she was simply Renee, a daughter, a sister, a mother, a woman whose life ended in a moment that now exists frozen on camera, replayed again and again by strangers trying to decide who she was based on seconds, not years. The debate over immigration enforcement, federal authority, and public safety will continue. Statements will be analyzed. Policies will be argued. Videos will be slowed down frame by frame. But none of that changes the final reality. Renee Nicole Good did not go home that day. 3 children lost their mother. A family lost a daughter. And a city was left asking how something like this could happen on an ordinary morning. In the end, beyond politics and labels, her story forces a harder question. How many lives are shaped and ended by moments where fear moves faster than understanding?